Hello, Cristina. Nice to see you here. Um, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so firstly, I think like you've been like a serial founder, marketer. You've been involved with a lot of cool companies over the years, especially in the Y Combinator batch. You've been a YC founder yourself. So like walk me through like what was your journey like starting and getting into Y Combinator? It's like a dream, start for most companies. Everybody wants to get into YC, and most people fail, myself included. I failed like 4 times already. So any pointers on how you can kind of take the leap from just an idea to getting into Y Combinator, and what is it that most people fail at that they don't see? Any insider perspectives here?
Yeah, I think as a caveat, I went through YC in summer of 2019, so it's been quite a while. Sometimes I just like shocks me the fact that it's been what 6 years. My journey was pretty unremarkable, I would say, in the sense that I met my co-founders in university. We worked together on a bunch of projects, and then one day we were like, well, we might as well start a company because we didn't really want to get like normal jobs. But we had zero experience working for any company, zero experience with just startups in general. So I think we were being quite naive, which really helped because I think YC saw that and they were like, these people don't have anything to lose. They're really young, they have ideas, they know how to build a product, so like let's just give them a chance. At that point, like obviously that was like the biggest like that was the thing we were most excited about, and we spent a bunch of time writing the application and getting like a prototype up and running. So I think overall it was like the best way we could have got into tech and startups in general. I think it still is like pretty similar now in the sense of like it's gonna help you a ton, but I think a lot of people think it's gonna help them in a different way. I think they think, oh, I got into YC, so then my company will have to work like they're gonna help me build my company, which in reality it's not. YC is still like a VC fund at the end of the day. Like they give you money and they give you guidance when you need the guidance, and if you go to them to get the guidance, they're not gonna handhold you. They're not gonna teach you anything like you're in school or anything. You still have to build your company. I think the best thing about YC, everyone says that it's just a network. You get to sell to companies within the same batch. You get to sell to companies in other batches. Our biggest challenge with the company we were building was that it was a consumer company. I'm not saying that consumer companies can't work with YC. I just think it's much more challenging because if like it's much easier to have a B2B company go through a batch and then you validate your idea with a bunch of companies you become friends with in the same batch, and then it's sort of like snowballs from that. Whereas I think in my case specifically, I think it was maybe a founder idea mismatch in the long run, because I don't think I was meant to build a consumer product, or at least like not in the beginning. It's like you jump in, your first experience as a founder is a consumer product. It's really, really tough.
So, like, I've read a ton of YC startup stories when they've gone into Y Combinator, and obviously the motto is, build something people want. And when you go into Y Combinator, and there's like a whole mantra around like just building and talking with people. That's all, nothing more. And so I'm curious to know, like, what was your mantra when you went in there? Like, what was your objective? That okay, I'm gonna have to do this, this, and this. And how did like having a community help you in getting those first users off the batch, and what was the workflow like? What was your process like?
Yeah, I think we did that. We did a lot of talking to users. I think this might seem controversial, but I think we did a bit too much of that. Our main goal going into the batch was actually building the product because we didn't have anything. We got in with like the equivalent of a landing page, basically. So our main goal was like heads down, focused on building the product. We were building an app where you could listen to articles. So it was a lot of recording articles, like curating the feed and all of that. And I don't think we put enough effort into what really we should have with, which was just building an app that in essence like can go viral, because that's the easiest way to build momentum with a consumer app, especially because we were trying to make it like consumer social. If we didn't have that like growth loop of someone signs up, they invite their friends, then at the end of the day, that's not a social product. If we I think that's where we sort of like went wrong. If I were to do it again, I would focus a bit less on building the product and a bit more on distribution. But I think that's like the experience of most first time founders.
Yeah, I remember Reddit when they went into YC, they were also a consumer product, and then they kind of made fake accounts to like sign up to Reddit themselves. And that was like their hack. And Paul Graham tweeted about Reddit. And so that got them their first users. So
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting. So after Y Combinator, you graduated from Y Combinator and you shut down your company. What was next after that? What was next on the cards?
So next up, I started working with Product Hunt. It was pretty soon after I stopped working on my company. I had been obviously a fan of Product Hunt for years, and I saw they needed some help writing the daily newsletter and like on the content side. And I had done a lot of content work for my own company, so I thought, why not? So I ended up joining Product Hunt. I wrote the daily newsletter for I think the better part of a year, which was a grind, waking up every morning and having to figure something out and like write about something, some kind of topic. But that was good fun. I think that was the like that really taught me how to write, and like thinking back at that and like how much things have changed. Like whatever I was writing back then that would take me like 3 hours, I can probably get done in like half an hour today with AI and everything.
Crazy. Like Product Hunt is such an interesting company. Like I remember reading that Product Hunt started off as like a newsletter, which
Yeah.
we were working on coincidentally. And Ryan was just launching his newsletter to people in his network, showing that, hey, I found this cool product, you should check that out. And just from there, it snowballed, which is crazy. Like obviously, it's a very fast-growing startup like Product Hunt. And what was it like working at Product Hunt? Because like obviously Ryan was there and other people were also there. What was the work culture like? What did you learn about working at Product Hunt that shaped you as a marketer that you are today?
Yeah, so actually when I joined Product Hunt, Brian was no longer he was an acting CEO when I joined. It was Ashley, she joined as CEO. Honestly, I made some of my really close friends at Product Hunt. I'm still in touch with them and we see each other every so often. The culture was great. I think the entire team was really like it was all built. Everyone was really just like you could easily see that they really enjoyed being there. What was really great about my role specifically was how much I got to engage with founders. Like I would get to talk to founders, write stories about them, interview them, ask them more questions about their product and their launches, give them feedback on their launches, figure out like how can you get more exposure next time? How can you do this? Like writing case studies and all of that. So I think that was an exciting next step after I shut down my company, just because it still kept me like in the same sort of space where you talk to a lot of founders, you see people building, and yeah, I think it was great. And then the actual like writing part, I learned so much. I had a great manager when I joined. Her name is Sarah, and she's an amazing writer, and I learned so much good writing from her. I sort of like she had been writing the newsletter for a while, and I slowly took over that, and yeah, I think I owe a lot to her.
Wow, that is so cool. What was the one thing that you found at Product Hunt that made them Product Hunt? If what was that one defining thing that made them Product Hunt? That they were growing so fast, they were so popular. What was that one thing that you noticed in a team that this is it, this is why Product Hunt is Product Hunt, and nobody else could compete with them?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think with places like that, it's just like they were there so early where people were like looking to share their projects somewhere. I think it's hard to build that just because of like the network that they have. Like it's just like all of the products are already on there. You have the history of the products. You can go into one product and like see the entire history of a product. So I think it's just like that whole context, like having all of that. Someone coming in and building something like that from scratch, it's gonna take years for them to accumulate that level of like all of the comments, all of the product launches, and all of that. So I think that's what really helped them. And then just like the entire team really cared about community and about like every builder that came onto the platform.
Yeah, community building is super important. You have to give us, you have to care about the product, I feel,
Yeah.
at a very deep level. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember like indiehackers.com was also launched, like I think not long after Product Hunt. It was slightly longer, but even like the founder there, Channing Tatum or Channing Allen, I feel that was his name. He also cared like a lot. He also interviewed like founders, how they were getting from zero to 100,000 MRR or whatever. And he genuinely cared about building like a solid community that people could, learn from, lean on for support and stuff, and sharing the metrics very open. And I feel like that's very important part, especially if you're building like a community focused product. Very important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's obviously other communities like Reddit. I would say like there's a lot of community on Reddit as well. I think what stood out about Product Hunt was that people were much kinder.
Right.
than on Reddit. But that's like a double-edged sword because a big problem with Product Hunt is just AI content and content doesn't feel very genuine. Whereas because Reddit and places like Hacker News, they have such strict rules that you're not gonna, for the most part, you're not gonna find that type of content. So I think like Product Hunt is much more welcoming and much more warm towards people, but at the same time, the likelihood of you finding content that's not as like thoughtful is bigger.
Very interesting. And after Product Hunt, you went into CommandBar. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So how did you get that gig, and what was your journey like there? You were the marketing person there, right? You led the
Yeah,
marketing effort.
I led marketing slash growth. It was a mix of a bunch of roles. I met James, the co-founder of CEO of that company. I think it was through YC. I think it was through one of my co-founders. Actually, yeah, I think it was through one of my co-founders. He was looking for someone to help with some content. And I started working with James just like here and there, writing a few pieces as a guest writer on the blog. And honestly, like the more I talked to him and the more I saw what the company was doing and the product itself, I really craved like more of a product focused company rather than, not to say like communities are great, but I really craved like that, like very like standard, like this is a startup, it's gonna grow, just like very product focused. And then generally I was just so impressed by James. He's one of the best founders I know, one of the smartest people I know. Eventually he pushed me for like about a year to join full time and I kept saying no. And then I was like, what the hell am I doing? I should say yes. And then I ended up saying yes.
Amazing. And how did you, like, what was your strategy growing a command bar? It's a
Oh,
piece of software, right? So what strategies did you use to grow the company?
just so many. It's so tough to like narrow down. But I think if I had to say one thing, we focused a lot on our branding. So I think every single customer you talk to, they would be like, oh yeah, obviously I chose Command Bar as opposed to other competitors because just look at their website. It's so cool. It tells such a compelling story. It actually has personality as opposed to most SaaS B2B brands out there which like try to be so pricey. I think we had a very, very strong brand presence and we had just overall, yeah, I think we were telling a really, really compelling story.
Yeah, the command blog was amazing. Like the
Yeah.
design was so good, the content was so good as well.
Yeah, it's all thanks to the amazing writers we had, and then Josh, who was leading the whole design of the website and the blog, and he's again one of the most talented persons people I know. And honestly, I think that's the case. I can say that about every single person that worked at CommandBar. I don't know how, but the founders, James and Vinay, they did like an excellent job hiring the best people out there. Like there was not one person that I thought yeah, they're good, but like everyone was like leagues above everyone else.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And in your time working at Command Bar, was like, since you were focused on marketing and stuff, and were there any specific KPIs that you were optimizing for? That okay, this should drive like some top of the funnel metrics and stuff like that, or uh,
Yeah, so we were a sales-led company, which meant you couldn't sign up to try the product. You had to talk to sales to do that. And like we ran a bunch of experiments around that. We found that for the stage of the company we were at, that made most sense. So for us, it was like, how can we increase inbound from marketing-led activities, which were content, webinars, James posting on LinkedIn and events, all of that. And our biggest KPI was, yeah, can we book meetings and then attribute that to marketing? But to go like a level down, that was more so traffic to the blog because content was our biggest like lever in marketing. So traffic to the blog, page views to the blog, and then eventually we moved into conversions. You had like, I don't know, 10,000 people reading a blog post that we wrote, and then how many of those convert? So we did a bunch of experiments around like how can we capture the emails, how can we put them in a sequence to eventually get them to book a demo, or how do we get them to book a demo after reading one of the articles we were writing.
right. And so what was that number? Did you find was a sweet spot? Like, okay, 10,000 people are reading the blog. How many of those actually ended up booking those calls?
That's really hard to tell. It really depended on the article. I would say for any I have no idea what the industry standard is, but I think if you have a conversion rate of like 4 or 5%, I think you're good.
That's probably true. I mean, there's a lot of like there's one downside to this is because like obviously the content is, even though it's good, it can attract a lot of different kinds of people. So it not necessarily might, attract your specific ICP. So
Yeah.
kind of filtering it out and qualifying those people could be challenging. So
Yeah, exactly. Because you might get like it really like with a product like CommandBar and a bunch of like SaaS products out there, you realistically only need like one really good lead that could turn into like 100K contract. And then most of the work you've done on content for the past 6 months is going to be worth it.
right. And then I remember recalls. So Command Bar pivoted into Command AI, right? It became like an AI first product. So
Well, yeah, it wasn't necessarily pivoting because it was the same product. It was more so we wanted to do a rebrand because one of the products we were building was Copilot, which was an AI support agent back when I feel like agents were not that big of a thing. So we really wanted to signal that, hey, like we built something that uses AI and it basically enhances your support, like customer support by like miles.
and so like how did you end up using AI? Because I think at that stage like AI was really getting traction. So how did you use AI in your marketing workflows at Command AI?
So I think the first thing was probably just using it for content. I'm trying to remember because that was, I know it's not like that long ago, but so much has happened since. So I personally, I used it for content in the sense like, excuse me, give me like an outline of how I could write this story about how I'm just giving like a random example, how Deal grew from zero to I don't know, $1 billion in revenue. I think they're at a billion now. So mostly for content, I think at that stage, like a few years ago, it wasn't that good. So I would just refine whatever sentences I had, whatever content I had. I would just use AI to refine that. But realistically, we weren't using it that much just because the models weren't as good as they are now.
Right. And what about now? Like how are you using AI in your workflows like today?
Oh, I use it a ton. I use it a ton. I mean, I use probably still the most common use case for me is still content writing. And it's more so the research that I do beforehand. So like if I have to write about a certain topic, instead of opening 100 tabs, I just ask the AI to like write me every single all the context they have on a certain topic, and then I go in and I pick and choose what I want to add into my article. I become used to just writing, dropping all of my thoughts in a document and then giving it to the AI to make it like sound nice, flow better, and then I do a final pass at the end to make sure like, oh, is this how I would actually speak about something? Like, would I use this sentence? Would I not use that sentence? So I go in and I make a bunch of edits. But yeah, I think that in between from like raw thoughts to actually something that looks like an article. I don't know. I use it for just like the usual, like meeting transcriptions and getting summaries of things. I've not played too much with CodeGen yet, but I think I mean, my thoughts on that are it's great if you want to build like a side project. I don't think it's at a point where you can do production stuff. I don't know. I might be wrong. I'm not an engineer, so I wouldn't say that necessarily, but I think it's funny because I every day I see posts and like messages in different like group chats of people saying like how do I stop the AI from going crazy? Because I have this intern and they're generating code with AI and it's all so shitty and like what do I do now?
That's crazy. Yeah, the quality is really like yeah, you need a human in the loop for sure to kind
Yeah.
of check everything is fine.
You need common sense, and then you need, especially for writing, I think you need taste. Like you need someone with taste who can tell apart like this is good, this is bad. Because quite frankly, I go on LinkedIn and it's so obvious when like there's so many structures that I'm like, oh, if someone's saying things like it's not just this, it's also this, and I'm like you didn't put any thought in it. So yeah, I think it's just like having taste and telling apart when something's good when something isn't.
So do you deliberately remove these phrases that seem like
Yeah.
ChatGPT is yeah?
Yeah, I do because it's just like it's not necessarily because it's ChatGPT, because again, like there's content I've written that's probably like 60% ChatGPT, and that's fine because it's like the thoughts I had, just making them sound like cohesive and coherent. But it's just like I would never say that. It sounds so dramatic, and there's like things that it says, and it's like just write normally, like someone would talk about to you about something. Just like don't try to use these phrases that make no sense and just add like complexity for no reason.
Yeah, yeah. And those dashes made like a lot of controversy in
Here's the thing. I hate the fact that it became such a controversy because I used M dashes for years and I'm like so used to using them. Then now sometimes I have to go in and remove them just because someone's going to think that it's AI. When in reality, I love M dashes, but
yeah, unfortunate for all of us.
yeah.
Uh, And okay, so what is your tech stack right now when you're using AI? Like, what is your preferred tech stack that you can't live without, or what are some tools that you're exploring to learn, even to augment your workflows?
I'll be honest, I just use ChatGPT. I think you just gotta choose one and go with it. I too many people become victims of just over indexing on the tools and not the work, where they're like, oh, like I need to use this and this and this, and I need to buy this tool and I need to buy this tool. When in reality, it's just like focus on the work, not the tools that do the work.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, it's just a tool at the end of the day. You have to learn, you have to know how to use it to
Yeah.
finish a outcome.
And I'm very much open to using more, but I'm not gonna go after a tool unless I have a need for it. Like I think too many people just buy tools thinking they're gonna use them and then never end up using them. I think it's the case with a bunch of products right now, like the whole like SEO, like now you have to do GEO and AO and whatever acronyms they use for them. At the end of the day, it's still SEO. It's still like you look at all of the advice out there on like how to write content that's optimized for AI engines. It's the same as we've been saying for the past 10 years. Like, use subheadings, make sure that you use the keyword, make sure that you write things the way someone would search for them. It's like it's the exact same rules, and people are trying to make it seem more complex than it actually is.
That's probably true. That's probably true. And like in terms of like speaking of AEO and GEO, whatever they're calling it these days, it's like so with everyone like moving into an AI first world, everybody has AI in the products right now. So in that sense, if everybody has an AI product, how do you, as a marketing professional, see how can they actually differentiate themselves as a brand? Because if everybody is generating content with AI using the same ChatGPT, same perplexity models to create content, they're also embedding the same models in their product as well. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you market a product and still maintain that differentiating factor that kind of sets you apart from other products? How do you do that as a marketing professional?
Yeah, I think it comes down again to taste at the end of the day. Like it it's quite easy, I think, for someone who works in marketing to look at like five websites or like five products and be like, oh yeah, all of them use AI. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you've got to have something that's yours. You've got to have like that brand element that screams like this is you. Even if that was built with AI, you have to have that human in the loop that says we're gonna, I don't know, use like bright pink and we're gonna talk about like there's this narrative that we have, and then we use AI. The way we had like at CommandBar, we kept saying like pop-ups suck because we were building a product that made pop-ups less annoying for product managers and product people who were implementing them. We had that narrative. We had an entire manifesto as to like why we stand as a company, why we built the company, why we were building product this way. And I think if you have that really strong belief and like narrative about your company and your product, you can use AI, that's fine, but something's got to come from you, and it needs to be really easy to understand. Again, even if you use AI for it.
Yeah, taste is your moat. Taste is
Yeah,
your moat for
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So, if I had to ask you, obviously we're wrapping up the podcast episode, is there any last takeaway that you would want our readers to take away in terms of marketing, in terms of growth, any life advice that you've had over all these wonderful years that you've worked and lived and had these wonderful experiences? Last any takeaway, 1 minute advice, whatever. Just go with the flow.
Yeah. I think something that I keep saying to everyone is just like people are so easily distracted, and like they hear about someone doing something and they're like, oh my gosh, we gotta try this because it's gonna work because it worked for X company. It's don't like take advice lightly because most things that work for someone are not gonna work for you. Really think from first principles about your own company and your own product. And yeah, try to experiment with that. I think like advice is great, but most often it's useless. Take
That's
everything with a grain of salt because again, like what's worked for company X 10 years ago in a market that was much different to where we are now, it's very likely not going to work for you, and you're going to end up copying someone else's playbook instead of putting your own spin and like actually just like having common sense and working from first principles from what you know about your customers, what you know about your product, where you want to get, what the market is like.
Yeah. The goal is to keep experimenting and learning and iterating. Amazing. Thank you so much, Christina,
No
for
worries.
being my guest here. It was always nice chatting with you. I hope you all
Likewise.
wish you all the best. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.